Hello and welcome to the Monday Mechanic episode 5. So, as mentioned last week in episode 4, today we will be going to the scrapyard and picking up our own beat up crumpled tin can and building it from ground up. Now, this is actually going to run over this week and next week. It's going to be 2 episodes because this process can be rather lengthy. So we are up in our lounge area to start. Now, let's make our way to the junkyard. Let's go find us a car to work on. So we're gonna walk over to our garage bay doors, pull up our map, and we are going to select the junkyard. It cost of 250. Yes, I'm sure. We're gonna accept, and we're gonna make ways to the scrapyard. Now the only downside with getting a car from the junkyard in this game is you will only ever get 3 cars spawned in the junkyard at a time. So it does take a bit to find the car you want. Like sometimes you'll have to go back to your garage and then come back again to load in 3 different cars. But hopefully we can just find a suitable car on our first visit here. Okay, so we are now in the junkyard. Gonna just check the usual spawn locations. So we've got 2 of the 3 cars right here. Okay, so we've got this guy. We've got the Katagiri Katsumoto running the i4 SOHC ABT. Now, if we were to go with this car, which I think we might, we will be engine swapping it to the i4 DOHC with a turbocharger. Ideally, that's what we would do. We've also got a I believe it's called the Del Rey Custom in this game, but it's basically a Chevy Bel Air. Which, if we really wanted to, we could throw in a 2-carb OHV with a supercharger. I actually like putting the V8 Hemi under the hood of these things. That's always nice. This is another beautiful car. So there's the 2 of the 3 cars right here. We've got the Del Rey Custom and the Katagiri Katsumoto, which I'm still trying to figure out exactly what kind of car it is, because from the back it kind of looks like a Civic, but from the front it kind of looks like a Golf or a Jetta. Whereas this is unmistakably a 57 Bel Air. That's what this is. So let's do a lap around and see if we can't find the 3rd car, the 3rd vehicle spawned in here, and see what that one is. Who knows? We might get lucky and just find a gem out here. I found a Porsche Carrera GT and a Ford GT40 one time out here. That was a good day. See, that looks like an old school BMW that I wouldn't mind building, but try to take a look at all the typical vehicle spawn locations here. Oh, here it is. Ooh, okay. Okay. So we've got a Chrysler 300. Okay. You know what? I think this might be the engine because it wouldn't be a hard engine swap to do. It would literally just be pulling the stock engine out and rebuilding it up to the point of the intake manifold, but instead of putting the intake manifold back, we'd be putting in a supercharger intake manifold and then a supercharger on top. So see, this is hard now because I'm not used to coming to the junkyard and having three beautiful cars to pick from. Usually I'm stuck with like three pieces of crap that I don't want. Now I've got three cars that would all be great. So the only thing I can do is buy them all. But I am only going to buy the Chrysler 300 and the Honda Jetta or the Volkswagen Civic. I'm just going to buy these two. Only because I do not believe that I'm going to have the room to buy this one now, so let's head back to our garage. Alright, so our junkyard build special just got a little bit longer because now I think we're gonna do 2 cars instead of 1. So instead of running over this week and next week, I think it's gonna run over the next few weeks. So there's something to look forward to. We're gonna be doing 2 cars instead of just 1 car. This was a big surprise. Or I do 1 car this week and next week. We go back to doing a couple jobs for we'll just go back to doing jobs for episodes 7, 8, and 9. And then episode 10 we'll build the second car. Or I can do episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8 building these. Well, either way, I think first we're gonna work on the on this little guy here, little Civic boy. So we're gonna pull him over to car lifter A. Now, if we take a look at it, I4 SOHC ABT only puts at 108 horsepower. So looking at our options there, we got a DOHC, AQC, BFM, and a turbocharged in the i4 that we can swap out to. Let's see what those put out in terms of horsepower. So we'll go to our engines stand, create new engine. Now we're just going to go find those engines. Okay, no, these aren't for our car. That's not for our car either. Actually, I believe these are the engines for the, these would be the engines for the, like, the 1940s, 50s, Jeep. With the Jeep Willys. Okay, so this is one engine we can put in here is the i4 DOHC BFM, which does have a turbocharger in it, and it puts out about just about 280 horsepower. Here's the i3 with the turbocharger. Normal i3. We don't want any one of those. So here's the i4 with a turbocharger. Like just the normal i4. So that's 180. This is not an option for us. This is the one we currently have, I believe. Okay, so we'd want this one. Yeah, not the rear wheel drive, the normal front wheel drive one. Alright, so I think actually, you know what? I think this is the engine we want to get the most horsepower out of it. This will give us like 100 horsepower more than the next best one, so we're going to select this engine as our engine to build. And now it's ready for us to come and build it whenever. But first things first, we're going to clean out our inventory. And then we're going to start stripping this car down piece by piece. So we're going to put her up on the lift. Then we're just going to start stripping her down. Well, that's everything. Interior disassemble. We're going to grab that seat out of there. Go back into our normal mode. And now we're going to take all these parts and we're just going to sell them. We're not even going to repair them because we're going to be replacing everything anyways. This is going to be a fresh build from ground up. So we're actually just going to strip everything and sell it all. The only thing we're not going to sell off the bat are the tires, because these are going to be our guidelines of how we're going to buy our tires and rims later on to determine what width of tread we get, size, and profile. We're just going to base it off of these. It just makes things a lot easier this way, so. And on second thought, we're not going to throw away everything. We're just going to throw away the parts that cannot be repaired. Because a lot of, like, the suspension and brake, a lot of the suspension parts at least are repairable. And in which case, I would much rather repair them for a cheaper cost than having to re-buy the whole new part. But in terms of the engine, we're basically just going to be replacing everything because there's not really much left on the engine as is. So I might be able to salvage the crankshaft or the engine block if they'll work on the new engine we're putting in, but otherwise, I don't know. Okay, move around to the next side. Yeah, there's, like, now comes the rather boring and tedious part of the mechanic's life, and just going through with the disassembly of the vehicle. This does take a little bit of time. It can be rather annoying when you've done it so many times, but every vehicle is different, so every vehicle does provide a different experience when disassembling and building. So we're just going to keep going piece by piece. Now, a lot of these pieces are just going to be getting, like, scrapped and just sold for whatever $1 or $2 they'll get me. Because simply they're not, like, repairable. Like, the rubber bushings, your shock absorbers, spring caps, springs, and everything. These are all parts that are non-repairable. Like, I can't take these to my repair bench and fix these. They're just, that's it. So, these I'm going to have to just kind of get rid of. But, most of the parts, like our rear suspension cross member here, the rear axle knuckle housings, a lot of our rear suspension arms, these parts are all repairable, and I can take to the repair bench and just have them fixed up, which will cost me a lot less than buying a whole new part. Okay. Onto the last wheel well, and then we're gonna have to lift the car straight up. But yeah, like the brake pads, brake disc, the wheel hub caps, wheel hub bearings, these parts are all non-repairable. They're just, I have to scrap them. The wheel hubs, and I believe the wheel, like, both of those, I believe, are repairable too. Unfortunately, the exhaust parts are non-repairable. Aside from, like, calipers, I don't think very much of the brake parts are repairable either. I think like if it has the ABS module and pump and everything, and then the brake servo, I believe those parts are repairable. Oh, you've only got one clip on you, okay. The as long as the air filter housing here isn't in too rough a shape, that should be okay. Like that should come out, or like be repairable, I believe. All right, so now we're gonna lift the car up, and we're gonna go underneath. And we're gonna start picking it apart. We'll take out the middle muffler there, rear sway bar. Now to start getting rid of the rest of the rear suspension arms. And our rear knuckle housing. Now we're gonna go over to the other side, do the same thing. Pull out our fuel tank. Now we're going to move ourselves back over to the front of the car. Take off our steering rack and our front sway bar. Front suspension cross member. Now we'll pull out the drive shaft. Our gearbox. Take out all our transmission parts. Okay. Only thing left to come out now is the engine block. So we are going to pull this bad boy down, and we're going to pull out the engine block. So that's just a regular old i4 engine block we got there. So one of the things that I would like to do now is I want to check and see if this engine block works for this engine. So we're going to go over and we're going to go to part mount, and it's the i4B. So no, the engine block that we have will not work. We need to get rid of this. Hopefully the crankshaft will work. I'm not sure on that though, but I know the flywheel, clutch pressure plate, and clutch release bearing are non-repairable. Hopefully it's the same gearbox. Should be the same front drive shaft. Sway bars non-repairable. Same with the fuel tank. All the rubber bushings are non-repairable. The suspension parts shouldn't be too different. It's only if they're non-repairable. We know tie rods are non-repairable as well. Same with our sway bar end links. Nope, suspension arms are though. So are the axle knuckle covers. I believe the axles, the drive axles, should be repairable as well. Okay. So now, let's see. Well, let's see what can be repaired first of all. Any kind of suspension or brake part we are going to repair because we know that they will transfer over to the new build. However, I'm not going to repair the gearbox yet or the crankshaft as I'm not sure if they will work with the new engine. Okay. So now the next thing to do is to clean up this frame. But we still need to figure out if we've got parts to not get repaired, and we have quite a few of them. So let's just clean up, let's just get rid of all the garbage parts here that did not get repaired. Except for the battery. We're not going to scrap the battery because we are going to put it on a battery charger. Okay, so we're going to come over towards our office here where we have our battery charger, and we're going to put the battery on. And now we're going to take our car detailing equipment and we're going to move it over to lift A where the car is, as well as our welder over here that we're also going to move over to car lift A. So basically the welder is what's going to repair the frame. So if we go into our car status and we look at it, the frame condition and interior condition are 16% and 10%. Those are horrible. Now, obviously, the body condition and parts condition are only going to be at 1% because we've stripped the car completely of all its parts and of all its body parts and actual mechanical parts. However, the frame condition and the interior condition, there's nothing we can do to pick those up through parts. So we have to weld the frame to get it back up to 100% and detail the inside of the car to clean it up. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to get the welder. We're going to use the equipment on our Katagiri Katsumoto for $1,000. And now we can put it back. And as you can see, just magical. It's like new now. Frame condition's 100%. She's looking beautiful. Now, if we look inside the car here, look at the dash and the consoles and everything, and it looks pretty dull, right? It's not really pretty, so we're going to detail it. So I'm going to keep the dashboard in frame here so you guys can see what happens when I use this. So we're going to use the equipment. Keep your eyes on the dashboard. 3, 2, 1. You see that difference there? See the way it went from being dull to being shiny? So now it's got that new car shine to it. We can go over to car status. And our frame and our interior is up to 100%. It's like a new car. So now what I think I'm going to do is we're going to lift the car up and we're going to put in some of our underneath stuff. So we're going to have to go in and buy a new fuel tank, and we also need a fuel pump. So we're going to go in and buy those by scrolling down to F. We have the fuel pump and the fuel tank, and we're going to go into our part mount mode, and we're going to install our new fuel tank and our fuel pump. And now the rear suspension cross member that did get replaced. I don't know if we replaced both the knuckles, so let's find out. Okay, we replaced one knuckle, so we're going to have to buy a second knuckle. And we are going to need 2, 3. For right now, we're going to need 3 small rubber bushings and 6 small rubber bushings and 4 normal rubber bushings. So let's pick those up. So we're going to go into our suspension screen here. And we're going to grab 4 normal sized and 6 small. So we know we got 1 small rubber bushing that goes in over here. And now we can put this arm in. And we're going to put in this rubber bushing, as well as this rubber bushing. And now we got our suspension arm B to put in with the 2 small ones. And now we know that we're also going to need suspension arm B as well for the other side. So we're going to move over to the other side, and we're going to go pick up our rear knuckle housing and suspension arm B, because we do know that we need those. So, where is it? Rear suspension arm B and our knuckle housing A. And we're going to put that in there. And then put in our small rubber bushing here. Put this arm in. Put in our suspension arm B. And now we can put in our other two rubber bushings up here. And we just need to pick up rear sway bar A to put that in. There we go. Now we're going to move into the front end of the vehicle. And we're going to put in our front suspension cross member, which we need to buy. So let's go pick that up with 4 more rubber bushings because we know we're going to need those. So front suspension cross member and 4 more rubber bushings. I'm going to get all these placed in now. Okay, now we know the front sway bar is non-repairable, but the steering rack is. So let's see if it got repaired, and it did. So we're going to put the fresh one in, and now we're going to put in our front sway bar. Okay. And that is all we're going to do underneath the car for right now. Now we can get into doing the rest of the suspension and the brakes and start filling in the engine bay, which we will continue with next week. As this is the end of episode 5, we will be carrying on next week in episode 6. So make sure you stay tuned and you come back next week to watch us finish up this Katagiri Katsumoto. We will be putting in the rest of the suspension, all the braking. We will be finishing the engine bay and building the new engine, as well as installing it. That is a definite plan for next week. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As always, don't forget to smack that like button, leave a comment down below, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more content. This has been your host, TRC Borderline, and I'm signing out.